are passionate about it, like that shows, and that those things will stick around,
Yeah, definitely.
And like rise to kind of, what's the saying, like cream rise to the top?
Maybe.
I think that's the saying.
I don't know.
Just go with it.
We're going to go with it. I'm not sure. Well, speaking of intros, I'm going to introduce you before I don't introduce you, and then like we're at the end of the episode.
Yeah,
Vinny Candelore, VC2ART.
That's me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm very excited to have you. I feel like, so I usually have comedians on this podcast, so this is very different for me.
Pressure. This is like my first time where I'm on something that has like a comedy label, because I'm like I think I'm relationally funny.
Yes.
Like I'm funny in text and stuff, but like I've never done stand up or anything. I love comedy, but like
very cool.
It's like an art of its own. So
it is.
It's definitely one that I haven't dove into. So I was like, I would be on this podcast. I'm not even funny. So
well, I appreciate you coming on, and that's part of it too. Like I want to have different guests on, and I don't want people to feel like it's just for comedians, because I've had some like musicians on as well, and cool. I feel like everybody's funny in their own way.
Yeah. You gotta get to know their personality and like their nuances, and like I think that's what I find funny in people, is like when I understand them and they say something that I'm like, like, are you being sarcastic? Like when you start picking up on things that other people in the room don't pick up about that person, like I think that's more funny than any joke or whatever.
It is, like when you share a glance with somebody, like when you look at someone and they're like looking at the same thing you are, and like they give like a side eye, you're like, yes, yes,
that's exactly it.
We are on the same page. Cool. So I do have a question for you. Okay. When do you sleep? Because I feel like you do everything.
My wife asks me that question every single day. When do you sleep? I honestly, I average like 3 hours a night, and then maybe like I'll take like a nap, or so like nap or two. I don't take 2 naps a day. I'll take like a nap like if I'm tired during the day, but my sleep schedule is just, I work until I'm physically exhausted, and then I sleep. And then if that doesn't matter if it's at 4 p.m. or 4 a.m., and then I sleep for a few hours and I wake up, and then I work until I'm exhausted, and then I go to sleep. That's why I said my wife's always asking me, when are you going to sleep today?
Right. Like, when are you actually going to like lie down, like take a rest? Because you do so much.
I feel like I do.
And it's very apparent from like just watching your Instagram. And I've been following you for a little while, and I'm like, you podcast, you do art, the shoes, like just everything you do, and you're a dad and you're a husband, like it's so many hats. You're doing all the things.
I mean, I humbly like have a very like lucky situation with my wife, and she does a great job with our daughter. So like during the day, she works from home as well, so like it's nice for me to like be there during the day, so I'm still present throughout the day, like in between projects or whatever. I'll come upstairs and eat lunch with them or do whatever. So I'm like very much involved. And then if there's something going on in the evening or whatever, we're just hanging out watching a movie, or we got some birthday party in the family to go to, it's easy for me to just shut work off whenever I have to. So like I try to be really intentional when it's family time to like give them my all. Yeah. And then, and then they understand, like when I'm downstairs in the studio from downtown in Pittsburgh working or wherever I'm at, like I'm giving that my all too. So, I'm very much always on whatever I'm doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like hyper focused. Yeah. Even though I'm the most scattered person all over the place. Yeah. So it's hard for me to be hyper focused. I don't have diagnosis of ADHD, but very many tendencies of it.
I feel like as a creative, you kind of have to be that way. Like, I feel like your mind has to kind of work in that way, and you're doing all these different things. So, like, to have a schedule, it sounds like you have a pretty, well thought out schedule.
No. Actually, the opposite.
Okay.
I have, like, goals every day where I'm like, these are my non-negotiable things that have to get done. Okay. And so it's like, I'll wake up and I don't know what the first of those things is going to be. It's like kind of like because I have to be very, like, cautious about like my energy, or like what I'm into doing, or like if I'm motivated to work on a project. There's obviously some that I don't want to work on, I just have to do them. Yeah. But like I usually try to start my day with the one I'm most excited about and get as much of that done, and then like map out the rest of the day. So it's like structured, but it's loose. Right. My wife's always telling me I need to get more of a structured schedule, because she's like She was a teacher. She's like very structured, like by the minute. You know what I mean?
Very scheduled. Yeah.
Yeah. My lifestyle kind of drives her crazy a little bit. Like it like gives her anxiety watching. So yeah.
It sounds like it's a good balance for the two of you, though.
We've been together since 7th grade.
Stop it.
Off and on. I mean, we dated all through college, and then we split up for like a year after college. Just trying to figure out life, and like we didn't know what we wanted. We're obviously like kids, you know,
right?
We're like 22, and I feel old for saying 22-year-olds are kids, but like, it is what it is. And then we got back together and got married, and now we have our second kid on the way. So
congratulations.
She's been with me through the storm of like, she just knows by now this is just who I am.
Yeah.
You know?
And very accepting of that.
Yeah,
you know, she knows what you're into. And I was listening to the intro of your podcast.
Okay.
And I was so like, I'm glad I listened to it. It's very insightful as to who you are as a person and how you were inspired and how you started with art. I believe you said that you like spent time with your grandfather.
Yeah.
And that's when you got into art.
Yeah. It was at my grandfather's house, but it was actually my dad's uncle. So my grandfather's brother.
Okay.
I called him an uncle just because I'm Italian and I live in Pittsburgh. So I have 75 uncles and cousins. And like, I don't know who's actually my uncle because everyone's a cousin. Like,
everyone's
just like,
a cousin.
What's up, cuz? What's up, cuz? So, yeah, but he is like, I guess, a great uncle of mine. He was an artist and like, he had polio, you know, and he couldn't like work as much. Like he lost a lot of like his mobility and like, you know, as he got older, it got harder for him to get around, but art was something that he was super passionate about. So I'd watch him paint. I remember growing up, we had like some of his paintings. I still remember them in my house growing up. Like there was like a ship on the water. I gotta see if I could find these, but they were phenomenal oil paintings. This like ship, there was like a bouquet above my parents' bed, like in a vase. And I just remember those paintings growing up and being like, I can't believe I know who painted this. And it sparked me at a young age. And he, like, every time I'd go over to my grandfather's house, he'd like teach me, you know, a new medium or a new, you know, style or something like that. So yeah, he was very influential. I actually have his name tattooed on my ribs.
Really?
I used to call him Unk. Well, growing up, I called him Nunny.
Okay.
But then as I got older, that kind of sounds like, you know what I mean? Like, there's like a cutoff for Nunny.
Yeah.
You know, as a grown man.
There's an age cap on that for sure. Yeah.
So everyone called him Unk. And so I got Unk, U-N-K. And funny story, actually, I got that tattoo, and the next year I was in high school, there was this new rapper that came out. His name was DJ Unk.
Stop it.
Yeah. And like everyone would be asking me like, big DJ Unk fan? Or like what's the connection there? So
were you like, absolutely, yes?
Yeah, I just leaned into it.
You have to.
Yeah, and now I have his whole lyrics on my back. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, perfect. He's really added onto the piece. I love that.
Like every new track, album cover, I just throw it on there.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm assuming that you like painted a mural of him somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know who this is, but like I'm just imagining it.
I forget his like most popular song. You would know his most popular song. I would pull it up on my phone, but I actually meant to ask you when I got here if I could charge this, but it completely died.
Oh, okay. Okay, let me do a light search. We really have it together, you know.
Yeah.
Had to go to the Sunoco today to get batteries.
Yeah, I actually got to the Sunoco. I tried to buy a charger, and yeah.
Okay. Yep.
But it was like, it came out that summer or whatever after I got it. And like, everyone was like, dude, because it's such like, it's like being like a Soulja Boy fan. You know what I mean? It's not like you're like getting a Drake or Lil Wayne or like Jay-Z tattoo. Like, no, it's like getting like Superman. Like, you know what I mean?
Or like Miss New Booty. Like, what was that guy's name? Shit. Bubba Sparks. Was that it? Or no, am I thinking of somebody else?
I couldn't tell you.
I can't.
But yeah, that whole era, like apple bottom jeans, like that type of rap era is like where I was fully, like I was in, I think 10th grade when I got that tattoo. So
very cool.
Yeah. So that was like, that era was huge of like just awful rap music.
It was so awful, but it was so good.
Yeah. It definitely like, encompassed that time range of like the, like 2005 to like 2010 when like, you were getting out of like Biggie and Tupac and transitioning to like Lil Wayne, but there was that like weird period in the middle.
It was weird.
It was just like, what is on the radio right now?
Right. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, My brother's 8 years younger than me, and like I just don't think he understands. I'm like, you just don't fully understand what happened.
There's so many things that come with like growing up in the generation where you like remember pre-internet and post-internet, and that whole transition. It doesn't matter if it was music, art, movies. That whole transitional period of time was so weird to look back on. Because nobody knew what the hell was going on.
No.
Or what was gonna happen. Like it was just,
and it just constantly changed. And like now, like I go into like thrift stores and there's like VHSs and that's like vintage, and I'm like, ew, ew. Like I had a VHS player.
Yeah, I experienced that with like going into so I'm real big into sports and like uniforms and apparel, and that's like what my show's about and all that. But like, so I'm real big into jerseys. Like I grew up wearing jerseys and my favorite players, but now I'll go into a thrift store and a jersey that I remember buying when he was like a rookie or something is now a vintage jersey that people are reselling. And I'm like, dang, like I remember this. Or like when like a team like would get in, like I remember like a team got new uniforms in like middle school. So I bought like the new jersey that came out. And now, like, I look and they're getting new uniforms or they're wearing throwback uniforms. And I'm like, those aren't throwback uniforms. I remember, like, those were the current uniforms. But they are throwback. They're like 15 years old now. So
I've never felt so young and old at the same time.
It's
I'm like,
so
I
weird.
don't know what's happening anymore.
Yeah,
like,
it's so weird.
Am I old? Am I young? Like, I feel like I lived this entire life. Like, that feels like forever ago.
Yeah. It's not. It's cool, but like it's at the same time, it's like
it's not cool.
Terrifying.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a good word for it, but yeah.
It is terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
That's like the best way to describe it.
It's not cool.
It's not good. It's not okay.
What are you gonna do?
I don't know. I guess we'd like have to live with it.
I guess.
You know, it has to be a thing.
Yeah.
But let's talk about podcasting a little bit, because that's a little more like in my wheelhouse.
Sure.
So what made you decide that you wanted to start your podcast?
I don't know.
Because everything else you have going on, you're just like, you know what?
I don't remember. I love podcasts, so I've always listened, and I've always been like timid to start my own because I never knew like what the idea was, and I still didn't even have that idea when I started it. So I feel like I've kind of found what I want my podcast to be about as I'm doing it. I would delete the first 4 episodes if I could, not because I didn't like the guests. It was because like the direction of our conversation has really nothing to do with what my show's about now.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have got to where I'm at now if I didn't just start it.
Very true.
There was never like a moment where I was like, I want to do this. I actually reached out to these 2 dudes, Clay and Cole. They run Hounds, which is like a creative agency here in Pittsburgh. They work with a lot of local brands like Turner's, and they did like the Turner's 50th anniversary commercial for them and like all kinds of really cool projects. And I reached out to them, and I was just like, I just want to work with you guys in some way. I don't know what that looks like, but I just love the content that you guys create and all this stuff. So I met with them, like we did like a consultation, and it kind of the podcast kind of formed from there. When I reached out to like wanting to work with them, it wasn't about working with them on building a podcast. It was just like, hey, let's create some content together, and I'd love to work with you guys. And then one thing led to another, and we were like, I think we could do a podcast. So it just was like really organic, and in the way that it started.
I think it's the best way. I feel like sometimes not having a plan is the way to go, because I feel like when it's too structured, or like you have too much like planned or what you want to talk about, like it kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
I feel like it never goes the way that like you want it to go.
No. Podcasting is the hardest thing I do, and I spend like 70 hours on a portrait. You know what I mean? Like it's podcast is like the most strenuous thing, because you have to think about, like, especially when I do my like episode where it's just me.
Yeah.
I have to think about the content that I'm going to talk about in advance. I have to then sit down and record it. Then you have to edit it. Then you have to worry about creating content to put out and being active on social. It's like, it really is. The people that make a lot of money doing it deserve it, because it is a full-blown production. And like, especially if you do a visual podcast, it's like a whole nother world.
It is. There's so many moving parts to get it to work together to be like its own beast. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare, like, when you do have guests on? Do you do research? Do you write questions down? Like, what's your process?
For the first, like, 3 guests that I had, I knew them really well.
Okay.
And the first episode I did was with my buddy Cody. Like, this is after the intro episode, who I share a studio space with in Pittsburgh. He's another artist. And I intentionally wanted him to be my first guest because he was the one that had always been telling me that I should do a podcast. And I also knew I was going to mess up the first time. So I wanted it to be with someone that would be like forgiving of that. And I'd be like, hey, hold on. Let's like, you know what I mean? Like in the middle of it. And we actually recorded it 4 times because I screwed up
4 times?
I think it was 3 or 4. But yeah. One time we were going to do it and like we went to City Works and I had like 5 beers and then we came back and he was like, dude, we're not recording right now. It was like 2 a.m. And I was like, we're still recording. What do you mean? And he's like, no, we're not. And I was like, all right, fine. And then like I was mad at him. So I don't know if that counts as like a recording try, but like we were supposed to record that night.
Yeah.
And we didn't. We just decided to drink instead.
5 beers is not like a good time to like start podcasting.
Especially for your first one.
Yeah, no.
You know? So
right out the gate.
Sense that he was a good friend in that moment and told me, we're not going to do this right now.
Yeah.
So I was pissed at him for about a week. And then we came back. We tried to record it. I think the audio clipped like it was like I was too hot on one of the mics. So it kept like peaking or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know the terminology for it, but yeah, then we came back a third time. We tried to set it up all good and it looked cool, but then I think there was actually like one of the mics didn't record at all.
I had that happen to me. It's so embarrassing. It's like, hey,
it
wasn't on.
Yeah,
it just wasn't on.
It sucks. So then we recorded it. I think it was a 4th time, and that was when I hired and I like through that process I was like, hey guys, this is what I need your help with the most, talking about the Hounds brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, the podcast is where I need the most help. Can you help me with that? And that's where they came in and did the audio. But
that's
as far as preparation, everyone's different. I kind of do a little research on if it's like a guest, like if it's like a Steeler or, you know, someone from Pitt, I'll do a little background, you know, digging on them. Most of the guys I kind of know. So like, you know, even if they did play for the Steelers, like I've followed their career since college or so. So like I can just have talking points, but I don't have like really a set line of questioning. I tried to do it for one episode and I realized it really hindered the flow of the conversation a lot. And, but yeah, honestly, interviewing someone is like the hardest form of, you know, communication because you're trying to be like natural, but like at the same time, like you have an agenda, but you're like trying not to seem like you have an agenda.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
It's really hard. So I definitely identify there with you. I'd rather be on this side of the podcast than your side right now.
Honestly, I prefer this side of it. When I'm on other podcasts, I get so nervous and I'm like, what am I going to talk about? Like, do I have anything to talk about?
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
I'm the complete opposite.
Really?
I actually had one time, the first Steeler guest that I had was Benny Snell. And, I actually got so nervous before recording that I made up like a lie and I was like, I gotta go outside and grab something real quick. But I literally just had to go outside and take a deep breath because like I felt my chest tightening.
Oh my God.
And it wasn't because he was a Steeler. I actually felt that like with my friends, with my friends that I was interviewing. There's this pressure to entertain. And I once I realized I'm not the person that should be entertaining. I should be highlighting my guest more.
Right.
That took a pressure off me, and now I don't get as nervous. But yeah, I feel no nerves when I do a podcast for some reason.
I'm the opposite. I'm just
crazy.
like, oh my gosh. I'm like, what are they going to ask me? Like, I kind of have an idea because like I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm sitting on the other side. I don't know what they're going to ask me. I'm like, I feel like I kind of have to be, you know, kind of entertaining, kind of funny. I'm like, what am I going to say?
Yeah.
I don't know why I get so nervous. And then once I'm in it, I'm okay. But it's like, I think it's like the drive there. I'm like, I just don't know. I'm like, how do people do this with me? Like, I don't,
That's crazy. I mean, you're not crazy.
Like, I mean, you have to be a little bit crazy, I feel like, to do this.
Yeah,
for sure.
There's definitely a controlled crazy.
Yes. I would say controlled crazy is a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Especially being a comedian too. Like,
yeah.
When did you start comedy?
So I started before the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
So I'm from Altoona.
Okay.
So I would drive here and do open mics before the pandemic happened. Once it happened, I stopped and got into podcasting. Okay. So now that I'm in Pittsburgh full time, it was easier for me to do both.
How far is Altoona from Pittsburgh?
It's about 2 hours.
Okay. What made you, not to interview you on your own show,
it's fine.
What made you want to, like, have you always been a comedy fan?
I love comedy. Yeah.
I see the Nikki Glaser thing behind you. Is she your favorite?
She's my favorite.
Yeah, she's cool. She's really funny.
She's my inspiration. Yeah. I just always loved watching stand up and I would recite
too.
jokes all the time and I was just so obsessed with it. And like I had girlfriends that I'd like tell them about. I'm like, oh, I watched this. And they're like,
Yeah.
We're not doing that. Like, that's
Yeah.
weird.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized like I had an obsession with it.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's such a scene here. And I didn't realize how much of a comedy scene there was.
I just kind of realized that recently, like starting podcasting, I reached out to a lot of people that have podcasts, or like they've actually reached out to me as well. And a lot of them end up being comedians. And it's like, oh, this is cool. One of my friends, I just did his podcast. His name's Chad. He does the I'll Call You Right Back
I saw
podcast.
that. Yeah.
The first time I saw him, he did stand up one time or something. I don't know if it was an open mic or it was like a first timers type event, or maybe he was opening. I actually have no idea what it was for, but I think it was the only time that he did it. And that was the first time I started like connecting through him with like some of the other comedians, like through people that follow him. All that stuff, like, because you can see when you follow someone, like this person also follows them. So like his name would pop up and I'm like, he follows all these other comedians, and maybe he doesn't anymore. This was a couple years ago, but
and there's so many people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like I'm going to run out of comedians, but I'm not going to run out of comedians. There's so many in the area.
Where do you go the most to do gigs? Like, is it downtown? Is it all over? Or?
So honestly, the mic that I like the most that works out the best for me is shout out 565 in Bellevue, and they run on Thursday nights. So that's the mic that I like to go to the most. Like it's a really good room.
Yeah.
Poor Man's Podcast actually works out of there on Mondays.
Oh, okay.
And it's just a cool space. It's kind of dark. It's like a speakeasy. Yeah. Like it just has such a good vibe.
That's cool.
So I really like going there.
That's really cool. Is it like you have to sign up for a time spot ahead?
Yeah, you sign up beforehand, and then they select. Like I think this week there was like 30 comics that signed up, and like 21 got like selected.
Man,
so it's cool.
That's pretty crazy. And there's like a pretty good audience there, like outside of just the comedians, or is it like an in-house thing for you guys to practice jokes? Or
so they do have some people that kind of hang out at the bar, and there's a little bit of seating like by like the stage that they have, and like it gets a decent crowd of comics and just people like kind of hanging out.
I'd love to come to this one time. That sounds cool.
You have to. It's so cool. Like it's my favorite mic.
It's every Thursday?
It's every Thursday, 7:30.
Shout out
Bellevue 565 Live.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to come check that out sometime.
But cool. I love it. It's so fun.
It's awesome. So you've been doing it for like a little over 2 years now.
Yep. On and off. This is the most consistent I've been with stand up. So I feel like once you kind of dive in, you just have to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing I was thinking about. Like there's a ton of people that when you tell them you paint, that tell you, I used to do that. But I feel like comedians, you never meet someone where you're like, I used to do stand up. Like I feel like people, once you start, you just like never look back. Whether you're like getting one person to show up or like what, I feel like once you're a comedian, it's just like a path you go down and you like never turn around.
When you get the high from like your first show, you're like, I'm in. Yeah. Like I'm in, I'm doing this. Like there's nothing like it. Yeah. There's nothing like walking off like when you're done and you got laughs and you're like, fuck yeah. Like that was so awesome.
I'm sure. That's gotta feel like running out of like the tunnel at Heinz or like Acrisure and like having the crowd go crazy. Like
that's what I would imagine it, to be like.
Exactly.
I don't know that I'll ever do that, but like so I would imagine it that it's like.
No, but that rush is the same. You know what I mean? Like just that rush, like, yeah, I did it. And like these people saw it.
Right.
You know
and, people witnessed it. They laughed. It was cool. Yeah, totally. So what do you say when people are like, I used to paint? Or like, how do you take that? Because your artwork's amazing. Like you are very talented.
I appreciate that. I mean, I love talking to people about it. And most of the time, like, most of the time these people are either doing it for a hobby or they did it for a hobby or whatever. And I love to like inspire those people to like keep doing it. So I'm like, why did you stop? Like, that's like what I want to know next. Yeah. Is like, what made you stop? Because there's been so many times in my life where like I've either paused or maybe not paused is a good word, but like I've had other things that like consume my time, whether it be a job or whatever. So, but I always found a space to keep creating. Yeah. You know what I mean? Through that time when I'm like working a lot of hours or whatever, I would still find time to create. So I always wonder like
what made them,
because then in that conversation I can like realize how big of a part of their life painting was, because if it's like a very stupid excuse as to why they stopped, I'm like, you didn't really paint.
Right. Like were you a painter?
You didn't really paint.
Yeah.
But like if they're like, I had 3 kids and then life happened and like all this stuff, and it's like there's like legitimate reasons or whatever. I mean, yeah, then I like to encourage those people, like, you should get back into this, like, it's something you really love to do.
Right.
You know
Do
what I
you
mean?
feel as an artist that you take pauses when you're creating to like kind of have like a recharge or?
Yeah, I do that mostly with like my family or like my little girl. I'm like such a daddy's girl. Wait, she's such a daddy's girl. I'm such a daddy's girl.
You're such a daddy's girl. I
can
can
be
see
if
that
I
in
want,
you.
okay?
Yeah.
I can be if I want. No, she's such a daddy's girl. Like, she's got me like fully wrapped around her finger kind of thing, where she's like the sweetest thing. And so I love to just hang out with her.
That video that you posted on your story today is the cutest thing.
She's on my lap in that video.
Really?
She's like sitting right here, and I'm like, I have my arms around her with like an X-Acto knife, like picking stencils off a shoe. And she just sits there and like, she's fully locked in. Like, I think she's a creative as well. And like the arts, because she's real into dance. She's real into drawing. She's like, you know, she can throw a ball. Like, you know, we've done like physical activities where, you know, we're playing with like sports type stuff. She's only 3, but like,
yeah,
you know, I think she's more in tune with the artistic side so far. But we'll see.
That's going to be great. Like, if she is, for you guys to share that together.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm really excited to like, you know, make our first painting together or something like that. So I've made her a pair of custom shoes. I gave them to her last year. I have a video. I'll share it with you if
we can recharge your phone.
But yeah, when I gave it to her, she like went nuts. It was like a pair of Baby Shark Air Forces.
Oh.
And she was like pointing at them. She's like, Grandma, Papa, Dada, Mom. Like, she was like maybe right before she turned 2, so this was like a year and a half ago, and she went nuts. And I was like, "Oh, I'll make you shoes every day now." Like,
yeah,
this reaction is better than any professional athlete could give me on a pair of shoes. You know?
Oh, for sure, yes.
This is the best. You're my #1 client. So.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, I'm a softie for her.
I mean, that's understandable.
Yeah,
she's so cute.
Thanks. I'm biased, but I think she's cute.
As you should be. Yeah. You definitely should be.
Now I have a little boy on the way. Okay, and so I don't know what the hell to expect.
Yeah,
little boy, because now I'm like a girl dad. And I'm like, you know, softened up, and he's just gonna come punch me in the face and be like,
a little bit of both.
Deal with it.
Yeah,
I gotta toughen up a little bit.
So yeah, it's just like gonna come out of left field for you for sure.
I'm screwed.
Yeah. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on too, and I think we connected on this when I listened to your podcast. I'm like a secret WWE fan.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
I had Corey on the show.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That was initially what brought us together. Okay, yeah. And I grew up loving WWF.
Oh, and that episode you did was phenomenal. Guys, you have to listen to it. It's so good.
Appreciate it.
And your interview style with him was just like, I was just blown away by like the questions you asked, and it felt very personal.
Really? I felt so dumb.
No, I didn't think it was dumb at all.
Anything I do. So like,
well, same.
I appreciate it.
I don't listen to I'm like, I don't want to listen to myself.
I edit my own podcast though, so I have to listen to myself. It's like, it's torture. It's double torture. I'm like working and listening to myself. It's like the worst. But thank you.
It was
a fun episode.
It seemed really cool. It's nice, like when you love wrestling like that, especially like when you're a kid and you're growing up and you're watching it all the time, and then like to have that experience, like I can't imagine how you felt.
It was definitely like, for me, like I actually don't follow WWF or WWE as much anymore.
I don't either.
A couple of my friends say like it's getting better. Like you got like the Logan Paul and like all the like big name people coming to that. But obviously with like how politically correct you have to be now, it's just never gonna be the Attitude Era of WWF. You know, The Rock and Stone Cold and all that
coming in on
stuff.
like a beer truck. Like it's just never gonna be like that again.
It's never gonna be like that.
Yeah.
Like so it's hard for me to get back into it in that sense, but. I would get back into it because I like the guys, you know, or the girls that are the actual wrestlers, you know. So like I'd watch it to watch Corey and like all this stuff. So when I reached out to him, I knew he was part of the WWE universe, but I didn't know like what he did.
Yeah.
And then I like learned more and more about him and how he's literally like filled in for Jerry the King, and like he's the replacement for Jerry the King. And I'm like, if I would go back and tell myself as a kid like that I would get to interview Jerry the King's replacement on my show, I would have went nuts as a kid. And now I'm sitting here like, so I had that mindset going into that interview where I was so excited just because I framed it in that way. And I was like, holy crap, this is cool.
It's incredible. It's such an experience.
If I didn't start the show, I'd never have that opportunity. So
right.
Yeah, it is fun.
It is the one thing about podcasting that I love. It puts you in contact with people that you may like never have sat down with. And it's just a great way to network and meet new people. Like, I think that's what I love the most about it. It's just so fun to sit down with people.
It is. I genuinely look forward to it. Like, you know, and just like, I love that like people have the control now to, you know, like put their own content out and you don't have to like do it through somebody kind of thing. So obviously it's going to like saturate the industry.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, the people that are, you know, consistent and like, you know, are passionate about it, like that shows, and that those things will stick around, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And like rise to kind of, what's the saying? Like cream rise to the top.
Maybe.
I think that's the saying.
I don't know.
Just go with it.
We're going to go with it. I'm not sure.
If it's not, the cream rises to the top.
The cream rises to the top. I'm just going to use that in the casual conversation one day and see if someone's like, yes, or they're like, no.
I think that's it. We'll see. I don't know. Whatever.
I feel like we need to Google it, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. I'm going to use it for
right.
sure. I'm going to steal that off of you.
Give me the
I hope that's cool.
Yeah.
I will.
Right.
I'll tag you.
That's the title of this episode. Cream rises to the top.
Yes, that's it. It's perfect.
That's funny.
The next thing I want to ask you is about your shoe designs.
Okay.
Because I saw that you partnered with Iron City recently.
Yeah.
Children's Home, Pittsburgh, which is great.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How does this work? Like, how do you get in contact with these people? Do they reach out to you?
It's a little bit of both. Just being like active on their pages. I've met a lot of people, you know, through working with the Hounds and like just collaborating with other creatives who work with brands and things like that. And it's just all been, there's never been like a, you know, a game plan to it. It's just saying yes to the right things and, you know, moving and doing a good job with like the small things, and then the bigger things come after that. So, you know, I've reached out. I got a chance to do the Turner shoes for their 50th anniversary.
That was cool.
And that has like led to a lot of the local brands knowing who I am and, you know, seeing what I do. And so I actually have another giveaway that I don't know if I announced it yet, but it'll be with Permani Bros. So
I work there.
No, you don't.
Yes.
For real?
Yes. I serve a few nights a week. That's sick.
Yeah.
That's
I'll show you
so
the pictures.
cool.
I'm telling you, if I get my phone, I got a lot to show you.
You have lots of things to show me.
But yeah, so you heard it here first. Permani Bros
Permani
giveaway,
Bros.
And you'll have a chance to like it'll be like enter to win the shoes. So
awesome.
Yeah.
How fitting. That like worked out so well.
I'm so glad that I announced that on this show.
Yeah.
There
Perfect.
Don't leak this. They're gonna fire you.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
just kidding.
I know. My manager's gonna be like, you can't do that.
It's not top secret.
He's like,
So,
no.
It's just not released yet because we haven't done the photos. So
Well, this will be perfect. I'll probably be. We'll make sure it's like released.
Perfect.
Like it's gonna work out so well. So happy about that.
yeah, that's awesome. I had no idea you worked there.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's like my little, you know, side gig every now and again.
Yeah.
You know, a few nights
For
a week,
sure.
every
Yeah.
now and again.
Mm-hmm.
How long do the shoes typically take you?
It depends on whether it's, you know, portrait work or just slapping a logo on it or whatever. I would say like there's some shoes that I can start in the morning and be done by 5 or 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some shoes that take, you know, 30, 40 hours. But it's like I have like a rack of shoes and I'm working on maybe like 10 orders at a time.
Okay.
So I'll like rotate through them. So I'll have like, you know, 3 on the top, 3 on the middle, 3 on the bottom. It's like 9. Sometimes I'll fit 10 on there. But like I'll pick up the first one, sit it down, like, okay, what's the next step on here? I had to tape this area off. Okay, I'll tape this area off and I'll set those on the rack and I'll move to the next one. I'm like, these need a coat of yellow. I'll spray that coat of yellow, set them on the rack while they dry, and I move through the rotation. So if like a pair of shoes only has like 3 or 4 steps, if I'm just going from like white to yellow, then it might only take 3 or 4 moves on the rack.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
but
really
like
cool.
if it's got like a bunch of layers and stencils, it'll cycle back through. So it's like they just stay on the rack longer if there's more to do. But I'm working on several at a time. So I never like time them out. You know what I mean? I go through like more rotations. Like they've been on the rack for 3 weeks because there's been so many steps.
Right.
Versus I've got 30 hours into them. Like I don't track it like that.
Does it help you like not feel stale with like a project?
Yeah. If I'm like hyper fixated on one project, I get real burnout on it. Like it's, you know, the podcast is, and like visually it helps me. Like I actually throw my podcast on the rack. Like I'll be like, I got to do this for the like I'll like literally put a note tag in place of a shoe. It's
Nice.
Like, all right, I got to edit this clip. Move that. You know what I mean? So
yeah. That way.
It just add everything into the rotation.
That's a really great idea. That way you're not like sitting and like editing forever or,
There's definitely a better way to do that that's more efficient than putting a sticky note on a sneaker rack. But in my brain, it works right now. So.
Hey, if it works for you, that's all that matters.
There's someone like corporate America person listening right now that's like, oh my God, that system makes me want to crawl in a hole and die. Like,
or maybe they'll use it.
Maybe it's
flip side.
You should patent it.
You probably should. Like, listen.
What would we call it?
I'm really trying to think. The sticky sneaker.
The sticky sneakers?
Yeah.
That sounds real gross.
No, that's so bad. Yeah. No, don't ever use that.
We'll come back to it.
We'll revisit that.
Okay.
I feel like in like 2 days, like I'm just going to be doing something and something's just going to.
You'll have to text me when,
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I'll let you know.
Sounds good. We'll go in on it together on the trademark.
Perfect. Sounds
Sweet.
Good. I love a business venture.
Perfect.
All right. So the time has come. Damn it moment time.
Oh, okay.
I would love to hear your damn it moment.
So this was really hard for me because I was like, I don't know how much I want to share because, like
understandable.
There are some stories that I could share and I'm like, I don't know if I should do that publicly, but, so I was trying to find like an even mixture of like not too much, but like still, got a little bit of like
interesting
something to it.
Yeah.
So I actually texted my roommate from college and I was like, when you told me I would do this segment, I was like, what's like an embarrassing story that I can tell? And so I'll just tell the one that he told me of, and
okay.
I was like, that's a good one. So we were freshmen in college. I went to West Liberty University, and in the freshman dorms, it's like all male dorm, all female dorm. So you have a community bathroom on your floor,
okay,
and you room with another incoming freshman. Luckily, I got to go with my friend from high school, and we both played football together. So
very
we
cool.
knew each other really well. We had like the same schedule, being on the football team, and but moving into a college, you're meeting a lot of new people. It's like a whole new journey that you're about to go on in your life. So it's like the first couple weeks are very impressionable. It's like being a kid in a new school.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally are.
Because you are, yeah.
But like your whole dorm in this moment is all incoming freshmen. So you're about to be with them for the next 4 years if they don't drop out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, you're trying to like establish who you are, maybe recreate yourself, whatever. So, but me and my roommate are real competitive. Okay.
Okay.
And so we had a Nerf basketball hoop in our room, and we would play like horse or, whatever. We would actually play 1-on-1 in the room, and we would get shut down by the RA like nightly because we would be like going at it. And I remember this one.
Like, please stop.
we were so loud. And so all this to say, like, you're in an all boys dorm, you just hear like two guys in a dorm just being very loud and aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So go with me here.
I'm with you.
All right. And
I'm on the journey.
We're playing basketball, but who knows what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I forget like what happened, but I got real mad. I can't remember if he threw or like we were like wrestling for a football at this point.
I love this. Okay. Yep.
Literally like the most like typical alpha male type bullshit that you can do like as a 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Like we're literally wrestling each other to see who can get a football like off of each other.
This is great.
So this just sounds questionable because if you're outside the door, you just hear two guys wrestling around on the floor, like making a lot of noise, And so we like get to this point where I like slam him on the couch and I like go to rip the football out and we knock this candle off the shelf. And there was this like vanilla candle or something and it was burning. So it like white wax went everywhere. Okay.
Okay.
So now just picture,
Yep.
couple guys wrestling around in a room.
Yep.
Now there's white wax everywhere, all over us, all over our couch, all over the place.
All over the place. Yep.
So this looks like something, So we have to go to the community bathroom to clean up. And so we pass all of our friends who have just heard us wrestle around for an hour, covered in white wax from the candle, to go to the community shower and wash it off. And we're like helping each other get it out of our hair. And then like we realized we go back and all of our friends, we left the door wide open. So all of our friends see the couch and there's like wax all over the couch.
Everywhere.
So that was like a moment that I would look back on and be like, yeah, that's not a good look for your first year of college, you know? I mean, if it is your thing and that's what you were doing in there, then
that's fine.
Embrace it, you know? But like, that wasn't what we were going for in the moment.
No.
Yeah, I would say that's our moment. That's our moment. Me and my roommates.
The moment you guys shared together.
Yeah, I had to call my mom and be like, how do I get wax out of a couch? Like, I had to figure out, do you know how to get wax out of a couch?
I don't.
You lay this is actually genius. You lay like a towel on it. You let it dry, and then you get an iron. And you run the iron on the towel, and as the wax releases, the towel picks it up.
What?
Yeah, we did it, and it got the couch totally clean.
I love that. Life hack.
It is.
That's amazing.
So my embarrassing moment turned into something that I'll forever remember, how to get wax out of a couch.
Which is a great life tool to have.
Yeah.
Did anyone ask you guys any questions, like any follow-ups, any inquiries after that happened?
No, but nobody would ever come play basketball with us in the dorm. It's weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. I'm surprised they wouldn't like want to join you guys.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Probably sounded like a great time.
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't know.
I don't understand that either, really.
There was this one dude that was real interested, but like.
Were you like, yeah, you're like,
I was like, I don't know why this guy wants to play basketball so bad.
He like comes shirtless. He's like, I'm ready to go.
He's like, yeah, it's all like lotioned up. He's like,
yeah.
Ready to go.
I'm ready to play.
Let's do this.
Oh, that's great. That is a solid Dammit moment. Is it? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm glad. I had another backup one, but it was just not as good as that. The backup one, well, I was going to tell a story of like when we were in the delivery room with my daughter who was born, and I didn't know if it was a boy or girl, and the doctor had to tell me. So
the doctor had to tell you?
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't tell because apparently when a newborn is born, like their genitalia is like swollen.
Oh, okay.
And I couldn't tell.
You guys didn't do like a gender reveal or anything?
No, we
beforehand?
found out at birth.
Oh,
so it was very embarrassing for me that I was as the dad, I was supposed to call out the gender of the baby, and everyone's waiting for me to do it, and I'm just standing there like, and as I just sat back down, and my wife's like, "What is it?" Because it was a C-section, so they have this like tarp up basically where you can't see from her waist down. And I'm sitting up at the front with her by her head, and I stand up and I look, and I'm like, I'm very overwhelmed by what I'm looking at begin with.
Yeah.
But then I'm remembering, I was supposed to look, okay, and I sit back down. She's like, well, what did we have? And I was like, and I stand back up, and like I'm looking around, the nurse is like, it's a girl. And I was like, oh, it's a girl. Like in that moment, I was like, all right, first thing I could fail at as a father, I failed at. So it's all uphill from here.
You're like, IDK. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. I'm not sure. We're going to let her decide. Okay.
That's a pretty good backup story as well.
I know. I was like, do I want to tell that story? Because that's like possibly embarrassing down the line for my daughter. But like, I think everybody as a baby has swollen genitalia. So if you're listening to this 20 years later,
it's
Veda,
okay.
It's okay. It's not just you.
Okay? It's everyone.
We all have. That's why I shouldn't have told this story. Let's go back to the one where I looked like,
Do we rename? Do we rename the episode with that?
We all have swollen genitalia.
Yes.
We'll definitely get some clicks. VC2ART, swollen genitalia.
Yes. People were like very confused by the conversation we're having. They're like, why? What is going on?
Yeah. How did they get from custom shoes to swollen genitalia in like a 4-minute swing of conversation?
Right. But I feel like it's a very clear pathway.
I think so.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. All right.
Perfect.
Cool with it.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Would you like to shout out your handles where people can find you and all the things you do?
At DJ Unk. And it's my name.
Walk
now.
It out.
Just embrace the name.
I think you should.
Yeah. At VC2ART on everything. So that's, any social media, TikTok, all that stuff. And then same thing with my podcast. It's under the VC2ART YouTube channel. So if you search VC2ART, you'll find whatever you're looking for. Yeah. that's pretty much it.
Very cool. Definitely check out his podcast. It's great. I've listened to a few episodes.
Thanks.
I know some sports things, so like not all the sports things. So
Yeah.
I've listened to a few.
It's definitely a niche, like specific show. Like, I know that there's not a huge audience for it, but I'm hoping to gain the audience that are like very into art and sports, that like it's hyper focused enough where it's a smaller audience, but they're very interactive and engaged with the content.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's the goal with that.
And it's very unique in that way too.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate it for that reason.
Thanks.
Even not being, into that as much, like I do really appreciate that you put those two things together.
Yeah, cool.
So
Thanks.
it's very
Appreciate
awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
this was very fun.
It's been fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and we'll see you guys next week.